Hi, Heimbach.
It's good to have you back.
Ist Käthe, bist du doof?
Hi, I'm Heinbach. It's good to have you back. What I have here is the 1965 Rotosequencer Mark II Moskwa and the Expander 1965 Sequence Commander Part II Ostankino. My friends over at Xaoc sent me these modules to make a video with, and in return I get the binary subsystem from them, which I'm not going to discuss in this video. This deserves its own. The Moskwa II is the sequel to one of the oldest sequences in my rack, the Moskwa. And I got this for one reason only, and that is it goes in circles. Most of my other sequencers are arranged like notation. You read them from left to right, and you can maybe change the direction. But I truly believe that by going in circles, that tickles another part of my brain, and that makes me make music differently. The big question I had for Moskwa II is, how is this different from the Mark I? It doesn't look that different, they kept the same layout, but typical for a sequel, they added more stuff. Same as in a Hollywood movie. You don't get one alien, you get a lot of them. And I first ignored all these extra functions and just played it like I always played the Moskwa. Only this time I had two that I could sync. There is something magical in having two rotary sequencers that you can set at different lengths and different times and then have them play off each other. I can't say enough how inspiring this is. So one of the most fundamental rules of modular holds true. You need two. The basic functions remain mostly the same. You've got 8 steps of sequencing that you can adjust, and it can be bipolar or unipolar. You activate each steps by pressing one of these LEDs. And you can adjust the speed of the sequencer here. Goes nicely fast. New is that you've got a range for the CV. Spread the voltage range. Very handy, especially in a live situation. Then you also have a reset. That will determine how many steps you play. From just 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. In the middle, there's a transport button that will start and stop the sequence. Very handy to have. Now, down here, you've got a control for that button, a reset input and a direction input, because they omitted the pendulum mode, but with the direction mode, you can patch it. External clock in, gate out, and CV out are here. And now it starts to get interesting. It is now possible to set different parameters per step, which is such a difference. To access one step, you hold it for 1 second, then it lights up. And then you get all these different options. You can, for example, add a slew on that step and change the intensity of the slew with this tiny potentiometer. Very nice feature, much different than the global slew on the Moskwa. And you can set the slew probability. So that independence from the probability function here, slew might be applied or not be applied. We can do that for other steps too. And probability is such a powerful feature to make interesting sequences. I really adore these features, and we're going to talk about a bit more when we go to the other modes. More options per step allow the ability to skip or to change the output signal to a trigger and not a gate, or half a gate, or to merge gates. So this way you can bind sequences together, which sounds rather nice, especially when combined with the slew. I always go back to step mode by pressing this button one short time. But if I hold it longer, I get access to the quantization menu. And here I can access the built-in quantizer. So let's change this to major. We got minor scale. Pentatonic minor, pentatonic major, Akebono, Arabian, Phrygian, and chromatic, or we can turn it off. One of the most powerful features of the Moskwa hides behind pattern button, because there you can subdivide each step with new rhythmic impulses. So let's say we get this. Gonna hold this, and now I get 8 extra steps per step. And I can turn off that feature here. And as you can see, these are light red, so these already have patterns underneath them. In step mode, you can set the probability that these patterns come up per step. So let's say here, probability for step for pattern like this, half it, and here too. I can't say enough how much I adore this feature, and I like that through the slight change in color you can see which of the buttons has that feature. Because once you've activated all these different steps, it gets really complicated to remember where you put what. Because, yeah, you have to remember stuff. But one thing that Moskwa also has is a preset function, so it remembers patterns for you. So you access that by pressing this 1 second, and there you see the preset that I have here. And now I press Shift and here, and now I can recall the pattern. Play. Can switch between presets now. You are limited to 8 presets, and that's where the curse of all sequences comes in. As soon as they become more complex than something like this, you want more, and more. I want this to have 100 sequences saved, and I want a preset manager so I can save them and upload them again, and then you're just going to end up with Ableton Live and Max for Life. And this is not what this is about. This is still very hands-on. there's a bunch more features that you can control globally, such as the way the transport behaves, or how the slew behaves, the probability, or what the function is for the random play, and so on. But I don't want to go into these too much because you can just read up in the manual about those. I want to tell you my biggest peeve with this instrument and what also makes it absolutely brilliant. It becomes quite natural to remember the different button presses and holes after some time and to remember where everything is, but the user interface doesn't really help you that much, simply because it's written in absolutely tiny letters. I mean, I'm standing here and I can read all the other modules, even pretty small stuff like the important stuff on Dresno. I can read bit inputs here, gate inputs, but pattern probability, step probability, slew probability, all these are important things on this module, and it's written tinily, really small, and I have to lean in to read it. I get that there are a lot of functions packed in there, but by taking the choice of writing all these functions in tiny letters, you are not helping accessing them. These issues aside, what makes Moskwa outstanding is the Ostankino sequence commander too, because this goes way beyond what the original sequence commander did. It gives you control voltage access to random, slew, probability, transposition. You get a clock out, you can control the range, you can reset it to first step or last step, and you can control the rate, and you can repeat steps manually, which is a lot of fun live. But the true magic is in this little switch. In the up position, this gives you a trigger out per step. But in the downward position, you get the CV voltage from each of these potentiometers represented in 8-bit. And once you start patching all the things, this enables some amazing, amazing rhythms. Polygogo by ERM Erfindungsbüro, probably my favorite oscillator of all time, eats up these voltages like nothing else, as does the Res4 quad resonator. And once you pair it with a binary subsystem, either via a ribbon cable or by patching it directly into the inputs here, the options become basically limitless. The Moskwa II is much more featured than the original, and you needed a lot of real estate around it to give you half the functions that this has. But of course, this comes at the price of a steeper learning curve, which is fine, I think, because it was hard to do intricate stuff with the original Rotosequencer, while this can be anything. I feel this is home in any genres, with the little ratcheting that's going on and the little subdivisions of the beat. There's just a lot of rhythmic variance, and the probability, this is just so smartly done. So if you're looking for new inspiration in sequencing, the circles that the Moskwa does is something I can really recommend, especially if you have two. It's just such a difference for the brain to see these run together. And then with the Ostankino, this is beautiful and I think perfectly suited for modular sequencing. Thank you, Xaoc, for trusting me with this and commissioning this video. You can find music from this episode on my Patreon. Thanks to everybody who supports what I do there. If you have any more questions, do leave in the comments below or visit the subreddit. But now go and watch Red Means Recording's video on the Moskwa that should be out at the same time as this. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye.